usual suspects, Brent crude, natural gas, they are on the up and up. As you see there, West Texas Intermediate breaching that $80 level. Brent crude has breached 85. Still volatile. We've still got issues in the Red Sea and so on and so forth. Bitcoin, 67,984. What happened to the 73,000 levels? It's falling. Ethereum has fallen from 4,000 to 3,582. Volatile, volatile, volatile. Asian markets are looking up this morning. We're waiting for that Bank of Japan decision tomorrow. It looks like they'll be exiting negative interest rate territory across the board. Shanghai Composite Index, the Hang Seng, the Kospi, the Nikkei 225. We are green, 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 green. Brazil, let's get to the news now. The industry ministry has launched a number of investigations into the alleged dumping of industrial products by China as Latin America's largest economy reels from a wave of cheap imported goods. At the request of industry bodies, the ministry has in the past 6 months opened at least half a dozen probes on products ranging from metal sheets and pre-painted steel to chemicals and tires. Also, I think that's a couple of quotes from the ministry saying that they have sufficient evidence to suggest that that is the case. And that's what they're saying right there. Also, the head of the chemical industry, he's also suggesting that tariffs may actually be implied. As you can see there, Brazil, lots of trade with China, 104 billion in exports in 2023. Big news coming here. Tech giant Apple apparently is in talks, according to Bloomberg, to build in Google's Gemini artificial intelligence engine into the iPhone, setting the stage for a blockbuster agreement that would shake up the industry. The two companies are in active negotiations to let Apple license Gemini, Google's set of generative AI models, to power some new features coming to the iPhone software later this year. Let's get to Nigeria now. Before we get to Nigeria, the European equities market, we can see a bit bearish. Euro Stock 600 is down, so is the FTSE 100. The DAX up as the CAC 40 down as well. We're going to be hearing from the Bank of England later this week in terms of their interest rate activity, so as well as the United States as well. It's very, very big week for central banks. Egypt, $8 billion aid package. You can see leaders across the EU. This was yesterday, and that's Ursula von der Leyen standing next to President Sisi. Egypt, of course, racking up deals. The UAE, $35 billion. The IMF, $8 billion. And now another $8 billion from the EU. So this should hopefully help the foreign exchange situation over in Egypt. All right, so from Egypt, we come to Nigeria now. Money Central reporting exclusively that the central bank is sending special examiners to investigate over 20 trillion in owner-related loans. We've got the publisher of Money Central with us, Patrick Atuanya. He's no stranger to the show. Patrick, good morning to you.
Good morning, Rotus. I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you. So help us out. What's the difference between owner-related loans and related party transactions? Help us out with this.
Okay, so owner-related loans are related party transactions, right? But the focus is on people with significant shareholdings in the bank, right, that have these loans. So that's what the CBN is looking at. Of course, just because they have loans doesn't mean there's anything wrong, right? But the CBN governor, Cardoso, he's a consummate professional, and he's trying to turn a page from the previous era where you had a lot of chumminess between the bank CEOs or bank insiders and the central bank governor. So he wants to be sure that these loans, to the extent that they are been taken, they are performing, and if they are not performing, then significant provisioning should be made for those loans.
I knew you were doing an investigation. Did you guys speak to any CBN officials about this?
Let's just say our sources are also in the CBN.
Is the devaluation of the currency related to this? Because I think your article, I read it, and it talked about dollar exposure for some of these loans. Is that part of the story here?
Yes, it's probably 40% of it is dollar related. So I'll give you an example. If someone took $1 billion, right, as loan by 2023 or 2022, that was marked at 450. So that's 450 billion naira, right?
Yeah.
Today, that's 1.6 trillion,
right?
It's almost like 4 times what it was, you know. So what is the capacity of these guys, right, to first of all service those loans, and also pay back the loans that went due. So the CBN is just trying to make sure that there is no that's going to drop on that angle. And if you look at a lot of the banks, most of the banks, at least the big ones, they've not released their full year earnings up till now. So that's also a signal that the CBN wants to be sure that the books are because they sign off on the books, right? So they want to be sure that what the book says is what it really is, and that's part of what is delaying those earnings from coming out.
Another matter, this all week, it's central banks all week. Bank of Japan tomorrow, Bank of the Federal Reserve Wednesday, Bank of England. Well, still on the central bank, you've seen the inflation numbers from Friday, 28-year high. What do you think we should expect from the MPC meeting next week?
Next week, okay. That's a big one. I think, we think that the central bank will take a look at their most recent hike, which was about a month ago, right? And see how it has walked through the economy. What were they trying to achieve? They're trying to achieve like 3 or 4 things, right? Get real rates closer to positive level, right? So yields have actually gone up to 21, 22% rate for 1-year T-bills. They try to put a lid on inflation. They also try to get foreign investors to begin to come back to the country, which they've also succeeded in, albeit just the 1 month, right? We had that news that about $2.something billion was got into the country, and so they'll look at then. They also hiked the cash reserve ratio to 45%. Okay, so that's also trying to drain some liquidity from the banking system, which also was putting pressure on the currency. So all in all, I think they're going to. Because it's a big hike for 1 month. So I think they're going to take stock of where we are. And I don't expect any major moves. Maybe they could give us some clarity on recapitalization. Maybe
the numbers there.
But I don't think they will make another major hike just so soon, because it seems like what they've done is working so far. And the only thing is inflation is still elevated. Well, inflation in a way is a kind of a lagging indicator, right? So we're looking back at what's happening. We think inflation will peak around June, July, and then begin to taper off into the end of the year. Okay,
all right. Let's get into some other global news. I don't think I ever spoke to you about AI before. This news that Apple is joining forces possibly with Google's Gemini. What do you make of the whole AI craze and the industry at this time? You think it's going to shake things up?
Yeah, so AI is, there are 2 things to look at, right? There's the investment case and there's the consumer product case, and they both tie to each other, right? So the more you have real world uses for artificial intelligence, then the better the investment case is for these AI tech firms, right? So the poster child of AI is NVIDIA, right? But you also have Google, you also have
ChatGPT, OpenAI, everybody.
Elon Musk is coming on with his XAI, Grok, and all that. So we need to begin to see more real world, and we're beginning to see in some of those real world applications. But the more me and you can have some consumer like products powered by AI, then the better those companies will be for investment.
I think NVIDIA even has a conference or something today. We'll hear from them later in the day. Let's talk trade. What do you make, China? What do you make of Brazil possibly investigating, probing, dumping? And then if there's some language about tariffs, you think they can get into a trade war with China, considering the trade numbers between the two?
I don't think they can afford to do that. Brazil and China, they're both members of BRICS. I think that they are close. They are close friends. They have good relations. Probably take it to the WTO, right, and maybe get some tariffs if the WTO agrees to that. That sees that they have a case. The bigger picture is that the Chinese economy is really in trouble, right? It's the second largest economy, right? And when you begin to have such protectionist tit-for-tat tariffs, it's not good for the global economy. So we hope they can avoid a full-blown trade war and then just resolve it through the trade mechanisms that the global economy affords.
All right, you stayed in Pennsylvania in the States, right? Yeah. You're a Penn guy. So
Philadelphia,
there we go. That's a big swing state coming up. I want you to listen to Trump, although he was referring more to Detroit. But Trump's, he was in Ohio. His talk on Mexican tariffs, he was threatening if he wins. Let's take a listen.
Mexico has taken over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it. Went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
The bloodbath one is making the news, but so on the business side, what do you make of a 100% tariff? Really? What do you make of that?
Okay, so when you look at Trump's policies in his first year, right, he was more bark than bite, right?
Yeah.
Of course, when it first came in, the Mexican peso sold off, that Mexican currency, because of all the threats to impose tariffs and close the border and all that. A large chunk of people that work in the U.S., right, they send money back as remittances to Mexico. So I don't think there's going to be 100% tariff, because those three economies, Canada, U.S. and Mexico, they're pretty much intertwined.
Yeah, they have trade agreements. Yeah.
Supply chains, everything is intertwined. So it's more bark than bite. Maybe he's making this threat so that Mexico can do one or two things on their own side, but I don't think we're going to see tariff stats if he gets elected.
Patrick Atuanya, thank you for talking to us about your exclusive on Money Central, also diving into the global news. We appreciate you coming on. Patrick Atuanya, publisher for Money Central Media Ltd.
Thank you so much, Rutus. Anytime.